Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a clinical psychologist. I am also the parent of a couple of ADHD children, and I have worked with ADHD for more than 40 years. And today, we're still doing the late diagnosis series, but this is one of those things that can be both ADHD and or I'm sorry, both early and late diagnosed ADHD, not um, just for the late diagnosed people. And basically, what it is the reign of rigid thinking. Sometimes people call it all or nothing thinking. Sometimes they call it black and white thinking. But basically, it's boom, you grab a thought, an idea, something, and you just hold on to it and defend it, get into gurling, yelling, screaming matches with people who disagree with you and have the temerity to mention it to you. And this happens pretty often. I mean, okay, my hyperactive ADHD child is an adult now, but he still has troubles with having rigid opinions, and especially when it comes to politics. Oh boy, can he go to town on that? But it's not balanced, and it's not reasoned, and it's not well thought out. And all it does is get you into trouble with people. It makes relationships end. Partly it has to do with, okay, ADHDers, I mention this regularly, are raised with a whole lot of criticism. and very little real training, especially in what we call resilience, which is the ability to make mistakes and not blow up and still continue on and say, oh, well, that was a learning experience, kind of thing, which is, what you need. Life is very complicated, getting more and more complicated all the time. And people are going to make mistakes, and people are going to make more and more mistakes. And the ones who will succeed, if you will, or just be happy are those that recognize that making a mistake is a learning a learning platform, where you can see, okay, we did this, it didn't work out quite the way we thought it would. Why is that, and what can we do better next time? I mean, that's got to be the priority, and that's what we as parents of ADHD children need to teach our children. And like me, if you started out and ADHD wasn't even a thing yet, I have messed up a number of times not knowing what I was dealing with. So you guys are luckier than that. At least you know that a lot of this stuff is ADHD, and they have different ways of thinking about things. Very poor impulse control, very poor control of attention. I mean, they pay attention to everything, so they don't get the message sometimes of what they really are trying to get out of a situation. And they're also, they're jumpy about making errors. They've been criticized so much that they yeah. And again, they have problems with their attention. So a more reasoned out solution or explanation of a problem situation, they probably aren't going to listen to the whole thing. So that means their information in that particular area is going to be skewed because they only got the first part of the message and not the howevers and things that come at the tail end of the message. So that's, rigid thinking leads to a lot of problems. It leads to broken relationships, and think about what it'd be like to live with somebody who can't be wrong. It's not going to be very comfortable. And when you have to be able to accept that we live in an uncertain world and an imperfect world. So if you hold some assumption about the way the world works or the way people work, and you're not able to analyze it later on and change it as things, more information becomes available, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to get further and further out of the line of the thought patterns you have will not be ones that'll be helpful in terms of um, making progress in your life, holding a job. Because of this rigid thinking, ADHDers don't typically have good relationships. They have problems sustaining a, what do we call them nowadays, romantic relationship. They have troubles with friends, having fights with them all the time until they get sick of it. Um, it's just being rigid. It means you're not flexible. Duh. It's true, but if you think of it in terms of thought patterns, a person who has a flexible thought pattern can look at a situation. Oh, I thought it was this way, but now I see that it's actually that way. And that's, I've forgotten who said it. I've never experienced failure. I either have succeeded and won, or I have learned something new. That's a hard way to look at things, but that's, honestly what we should be doing, and we should be teaching our kids to do that. And so the problem with rigid thinking is that, there's another. I'm getting you all my Instagram quotes. I think it's that people who have come to a conclusion based on emotion are hard, if not impossible, to change their minds using logic. I think that explains a whole bunch about our political situation right now, and that's as close as I'm going to get to that bomb. People believe what they want to believe. The problem is if it's all based on emotion, not on logic, not on observation, not even scientific research, you're never going to get beyond it. And you're going to get further and further away from the folks who think a little more logically and are able to analyze their beliefs and that sort of thing. So I guess then the question is, well, what do you do with it? How do you fix it? Well, it's actually cognitive behavior therapy, which is, if you're not familiar with what that is, cognitive behavior therapy, one of the central assumptions is that emotions are caused by the way you think about a situation. And that it causes the emotion. And if you keep having the same experiences day after day, that becomes cemented in sort of belief. But the thing you have to, there's probably 2 or 3 parts. First part is you need to recognize the inner dialogue you're having. We all are doing it all the time, okay? There's nobody whose brain responds very well to don't think. It doesn't know how to do that. We all have, kind of a running dialogue going on in our heads, and very few people ever hear it out loud. But many people are not aware of this, though. They don't think that they're thinking all the time. They don't think that their thoughts are that powerful. Matter of fact, one of the problems in private practice or in just doing clinical work is that it is easier to convince somebody that they're going to lose 40 pounds in 30 days than it is to convince them that their thoughts control their emotions. But that is the way it seems to work. Okay, and so if you change the way you think about a situation, you change your emotional reaction. But that is tricky, okay? Especially if you're a rigid thinker. But the first thing, become aware of how you're thinking, or become aware of that you are thinking all the time, and just start paying attention to that. Oh, I was thinking this, so that's the way why I did that, or I was thinking this, so that's why I felt that way. And that takes a while, like, for people to pick those up, to become aware of that. And then the next thing you have to do is the belief system. Change the belief. Change this. Yeah, the belief that they have come, the conclusions to which they have come, and they're going to fight like crazy to hold on to that thought pattern, and they will frequently. Well, you've got to be very careful. That's all I'm going to say. It's I mean, it's tricky working with people who are very rigid, and paranoids are rigid, and they're impossible to work with. ADHDers are rigid, but they're rigid because basically that's the way society has trained them. You get all these problems, we criticize the heck out of you. Um, that doesn't change a darn thing. So what do you have to do? Okay, I'm thinking this. I'm getting this result. I'm angry. I'm, whatever it is, say it's an anger, because that's the way it comes out most of the time. And so then you have to start looking at what kind of facts are out there in the world. You've looked at your thinking. Ideally, you have kept a log and written down, when you were feeling, say we're working on anger. When you're feeling angry, you're right. What am I thinking? He can't do that to me. Nobody does that to me. I thought he was my friend and he betrayed me. All that stuff. Well, then you got to figure out a way to change your dialogue so that you are less angry, say. You're not going to totally eliminate it. That takes a long time to do. But you're going to, okay, if I think about it this way, I'll be much calmer. I'm not saying he betrayed me. I just say, well, I thought he was going to do this, but he did that. And I'm not sure why he did that. And so maybe you have to do some more research. You go talk to him. Why did you do? But you're treating it like a problem to be solved, not a betrayal to be punished by withdrawal of your presence or whatever. So that's and the second part of it. And and again, some of this stuff it's good to either have a steno book or something with you that you write all these down, or do it on the note taking part of your iPhone, whatever. But just get it down, and so you can look at it later. And then the tricky part comes when you have to change this to reflect what you now know is the reality. And that is tricky because you've got to say, okay, first of all, I have to acknowledge that I made a quick tempered, rigid thought pattern based decision and acted on it. And now I am without my friend anymore, for instance. So you've become aware that you have a little dialogue going on in your head all the time. You have presumably written down some of this stuff as it relates to your problem emotion. And then now the tricky part is what are the ways you could think about this that are still accurate, but don't make you so angry? So, maybe, well, Billy didn't say what I thought he was going to say, but he's got a right to his own opinion or something like that. But anyway, you're just trying to change it a little bit. change the inner dialogue, and you're writing this down. I usually use like a 3-column technique because that's you get a little thing on what's happening, a little thing on what's the emotion that or the thought pattern that caused the emotion, and then what's more realistic, more something that you actually could see on the videotape if you had any videotape. You're looking at that, trying to figure out why you're so angry, basically, and can you change that? And if you can, and it takes practice, and it takes a lot of diligence to do that. And just remember another thing, and I'm going to try very carefully not to get into trouble here. Rigid belief systems are typically based on emotions rather than logic or facts. Okay, that includes many things we take for granted, but if you're not dealing with it logically, that is, well, the facts are these, and this is because of that. If you're not able to do that, you're in trouble. Okay, you're gonna mess up big time, especially since you probably have the same belief that I can't make mistakes. I've got to be perfect. If I'm not perfect, it's terrible and horrible and awful. Can't do that. You can do it because obviously a whole bunch of people do it that way, but that's not the way you want to live your life. In general, the thing is, we all know is we're all going to make mistakes. We know that the life is full of mistakes and mistake-prone people, and we've got to rise above that and just accept that these are imperfect people in an imperfect world, and that's the way it's going to be. And then what we really need to look at is how to turn those observations into a more reality-based kind of approach. Okay, another way, and I'm telling you that cognitive behavior therapy is being used for almost everything, but it is tricky, and you have to keep repeating the same thing over and over again, basically. Okay, mistakes are an opportunity to learn. Making mistakes is an opportunity to learn. Making mistakes does not mean you're a horrible person. It just means you're a fallible human being. And so you made a mistake. Big deal. Okay, you've got to look like you've got to learn from your mistakes, and don't treat them as their horrors, terrible thing. Oh, horrible, awful. Oh, I feel really, you made a mistake. You're human. Welcome aboard. Now, what are we going to do about it? Well, let's get to the point where we can talk about it rationally and logically, and then, see if we have to do anything to make up for the way we treated somebody, a friend, a wife, a spouse, whatever. Because, ADHDers tend to be, believe it or not, perfectionists, and that just makes all this worse because they don't tolerate mistakes and they don't tolerate errors, and they make plenty of both. And so they get less and less contact with the real world. So, okay, what are we? Summary. Okay. ADHDers are prone to rigid thinking, which is not logical thinking. This means they're always going to be in trouble because there's a big body of organizational systems and schools and all that stuff are going to not want to put up with a whole bunch of emotional thinking and reasoning. They want just the facts, and that's what you've got to give them. And the facts are that ADHDers, they're impulsive, they make rapid decisions, sometimes impulsive. They're so rapid they're impulsive, and they tend as a result to make a lot of mistakes. And one of the ways they try to compensate for that is very rigidly defending their position. And even if it doesn't make any sense logically, they're just defending themselves, their self-image, and so on by arguing. And yeah, it happens all the time. And they will say, if you're really in the situation with them, they will say outrageous things. Okay, so that's it for today. I will this will get published no, it'll be it'll be in the queue. I have a fairly long delay now. It's about 4 to 6 weeks before this will show up. But of course, if this is the only time you're hearing that, you won't know about that until it actually shows up. Okay, a couple of things I'd like you to take away. Now, one is you want to teach as much as you can. Be a teacher rather than a punisher with a kid. You want to be the one who says, okay, this didn't go very well, did it? Well, what happened exactly? What are just the facts? If I'm looking at a video, what am I going to see? And then what conclusions do we draw from that? Teach them the whole routine that I just went through with you. And because what you're training, it's a combination of resistance training. Resistance. Okay, no, not resistance. It's a combination of just teaching them to think logically, and it's a kind of a resilience training, and you need to emphasize that with your ADHD children. And if you're an ADHDer yourself, you need to emphasize that when you're thinking about yourself. Okay? And it's okay to make mistakes. It doesn't make you a bad person, just a human being. So hold on to that thought, because it's really important. Because people who can't afford to make mistakes don't ever do very much in life. Okay, my website, terrygingrassphd.com. Drop me a line. You can do it on this when you get it. And you will have. Okay, I'm in the midst of a growth spurt here in the business. I've been doing freebie content for a long time now, about 10 years, honestly, between Facebook and YouTube and so on. But going to be setting up a membership group. And the membership group would be, I talked a little bit about it last week. Membership groups are when you pay a little bit, mostly it defrays office expenses, but like about say $27 a month, which is less than you spend on Starbucks probably. And we will have once a week. We'll have different topics. I'll do a regular platform kind of like this where I'm teaching something about ADHD, and then we'll do one session that'll be a Q&A session, and there'll be some bonus coverage, and maybe a curation part where I, give you access to something that was written by somebody other than me, or spoken by somebody other than me. But anyway, that's kind of the format we're looking at. And you'll have a Facebook group that you can go to and chat with each other and that sort of stuff. And I'll be monitoring that, and answering some questions as much as I can. Okay, if you think that sounds okay, we're not ready right now, but we will be. Well, let's say probably by next week, I'll be able to tell you how to get on board. If you want ADHD coaching, I do that right now, and I have a sign up on my website, and you can do that. And you can also pick a time and that. And if you can't figure out how to do that, just give me an email. Okay, and that's it for today. Catch you next time.